Welcome filmmakers, fans, and friends to Indie Cinema Showcase, your #1 source for filmmaking, conventions, and everything in between. I'm Christina Carmona.
And I'm Nando. Together we'll be bringing you the best and brightest that Florida has to offer with a focus on Central Florida.
In today's episode, we'll be speaking with Tony Grier as he chats about his new documentary, The Last Teardrop.
We'll also revisit some of our past events and then travel to the Enzion Theater to hang out with Tim Anderson as he lets us know what films we should see before we die.
All right, let's get things started with our Show Us Your Shorts, the trailer to Tony Grier's new documentary, The Last Teardrop.
Just to be here in Detroit, where it all started. Music for the world, the music of our lives, it all started right here in Detroit.
Our next guest started his filmmaking journey from following his brother's footsteps. Once in college, basketball took over his life, and that led him to the NBA. But the dream of being a filmmaker never left his heart, and now he runs a successful production company right here in Orlando, Florida. So for today's Industry Insight, we're speaking with Tony Grier.
Hey guys, we're in the studio with Tony Grier, director and producer of Ep6 Films. Tony, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Of course. So we just like to get to know our guest a little bit. So can you talk to us about your journey into this industry?
Well, film has been a big passion of my life, even before sports. Obviously, most people know me as a former college basketball player at USF in Tampa. But film started when I was very young. I had an older brother who produced films, and of course back then it was different, but he was a great inspiration for me. And he went off to college and I was left home alone, and he left a lot of his equipment and some things, and I started to learn on my own. And that's how it all started. Of course, sports took over after that.
Wow.
So you speak a little bit about, getting into sports in college and, eventually in the NBA as well. What made you decide after that was all said and done to come back into the world of film and entertainment?
Basketball, to me, is one of the highest forms of entertainment. As you know, and let's just call it what it is, the Lakers and Showtime in LA. I mean, to get a ticket there is quite expensive these days.
Yeah.
But when I played, the game was evolving and it was becoming more of an entertainment venue. Mm-hmm. And to get attention, even as a collegiate player, I tended to lean in that direction in terms of doing some exciting things, impactful things. And I've always had that desire to entertain, and I've enjoyed all forms of entertainment, storytelling, anything that's connected to a reality that brings people in to learn more about it.
Wow. Now, when it comes to filmmaking, where do you feel like you shine?
I think what I like most about filmmaking is taking something that's an idea, a vision. I'm a writer. I've written a book, and I've spent nights sitting and writing and putting together stories and different things. But to take ideas and help put them together so that they actually interact with some other elements of life, where someone who then would watch a film and say, I see myself in that film, or there's something about it that reminds me of something that I truly know that's dear to my heart. You want to bring people in, you want to have them sit there and not go away. And that's what I love about the industry, is that you can do that with pretty much any topic.
Yes, that is true. Now, do you find that you find your inspiration from real life events that maybe are your experiences or others?
I think really, life imitates art, and of course you can say that in either way.
Right.
Because everything that we experience, let's be honest, we've probably seen something on television
Yeah.
or in a movie that's relating to that particular event in your life, and it's personalized. And so I'm happy that you can take personal stories and embellish them a little bit and make them blockbuster movies, because there's always disclaimers that say that events that occurred or this or that, but not necessarily as accurate as you may have wanted them to be.
Right.
So you can kind of fictionalize some things if you have to.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the best stories, because you have a lot of writers or filmmakers who get stuck on, I can't think of anything. I don't have any ideas, but sometimes pulling from real life, I mean, we live it all the time. There's so many stories that you can pull from when it comes to the news or like listening to somebody speak. So I think that when it comes to filmmaking, like you said, you can start with something that you just heard with somebody else and then just embellish that a little bit, add a little pizzazz, and then you've got a great story.
Right. Now, I know you recently did a documentary. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The documentary that we released recently in July at the International Film Festival, the Orlando International Film Festival, is about someone who I felt had a story that was bigger than who he was. Bobby Wilson was a singer that grew up in South Carolina, went into the Navy, and started doing tributes. Just decided to start singing and doing renditions. I'll say an example would be an Elvis impersonator.
Right.
Bobby, of course, was convinced that he was so good that he should explore other talent, and Jackie Wilson was one. And the famous Bruno Mars' father, Peter Hernandez, is the one who told him that he should look into it because he looked like him. And Bobby then started to do a Jackie Wilson tribute, not knowing what the connection would ultimately be.
That's amazing. And I read up a little bit on it. I was like, and the story itself is just fascinating. So, like, if you ever get the chance, the opportunity to see this, definitely check it out because it's actually a really good documentary.
Wow. And how does Bobby feel telling his story?
Bobby's happy about it because he had been approached many times by a lot of Hollywood folks about doing stories on Jackie. And there's several projects that are in the works now, but Bobby wanted his story to come out the way I presented it to him, because again, in documentaries, you have a story, but I go deeper and get the story behind the story. I wanted to know and interview people he grew up with and his foster family, the Wilson family, of course, come on board. And then he has 2 sons of his own. Bobby was married and, is a father on the road, traveling. So we dug into all those things. And in the end, I think it allows people to watch a film and see themselves in it, those that were detached from family, maybe for a short time or a long period of time, and certainly those in foster care and who were adopted.
Now, do you have any other projects in the work that when you're thinking about ideas about maybe possibly doing another documentary? Is do you already have something in mind, or is it just by chance that something kind of comes along your way and you're like, hey, that would make a great story?
It comes along. I think we all have aspirations to tell certain stories, and when you find by chance sometimes things that have occurred, you can then take that story and create. Now also, people like to work with people that they trust. And one of the things that happened with Bobby Wilson is he has a plethora of people through Jackie, his father, who've attached to him. And let's face it, documentaries are kind of the thing nowadays.
I mean, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that opened up some doors.
You know, all the streaming platforms, they're full of documentaries. Like, that's the first thing that pops up. So
Not only that, documentaries are being shot differently.
yes, they are.
I mean, so interesting. I mean, it's documentaries are like, I'm watching like a ton of them on Netflix. I mean, they're great. They're absolutely great. So do you think that you gear more towards documentaries?
Well, I think right now I am. I think I'll always have that part of me. I think I'm a storyteller, though, in my writing, so there may be some things that I pursue. I'm involved with a couple of projects, you know, that are feature films and just helping and working with people who are producing. But the truth is Bobby's story. Bobby was discovered by Bruno Mars's father, Peter Hernandez. And through that, Peter Hernandez wants to tell Bruno Mars's story. So see how this works?
Yeah.
You know, you see clips and you realize people are doing the right thing, and then it just opens doors. So I would always advise young people who are in film and who are looking to network and do good work is to know that people are watching, and if they do it the right way, other opportunities may come from it.
Right, and that's excellent advice right there, because people feel sometimes that they have to have the schooling, and of course that's always great, right? You know, you get schooling, but sometimes, you know, if you have a passion and you learn how to do it and you put some time into it and network, you can still do something great, and you end up.
Yeah, network is the lifeblood of our industry.
I mean,
Like,
really, we tell everyone, and you are like a testament to that. So, I mean, that's fantastic.
You
So-
have to learn too.
Yeah,
I mean, of
absolutely.
course,
You
right,
know, that's
right.
no matter how long you've been doing it, and you know, you can always learn something, and it's important
Absolutely.
Right.
to take that approach, because I mean, Steven Spielberg said that once, that you know, he's still learning. I mean, for him
Absolutely.
to say that,
Especially now. I mean, we have technology that's always changing.
Constantly evolving. Yeah.
I mean, you get a phone, next year it's already
Outdated.
the old one, you know? So, yeah, I feel like, especially in this industry, if you're not willing to, you know, maybe compromise in some of the old ways or learn new ways, and you're just kind of, you're not going to be able to move forward.
No, like we've definitely, like you were mentioning, like, you know, we've gotten to a day and age where everything is advancing so quickly that, you know, if you think that you know everything there is to know about filmmaking, you're doing
It's
yourself
changed again.
you're doing
Yeah.
yourself an injustice. So it's great that, you know, you're very, the way that you think about stuff is very forward progressive. You know, it's like you know that things are going to change. You flow with that. But you know that at the core, you're telling a story. You're a storyteller, and that's you know, whether it's on on the pages of a book, whether it's behind a camera, it's still the same thing. You're telling a story.
Right, right. Now, what's next?
I tell you, the two documentaries that we have that are in production right now, Joey D from the Peppermint Lounge, which his popular song was the Peppermint Twist. Joey D, he's someone that, well, let's just say the 50s and 60s, he helped elevate a lot of different artists, and you know, we're trying to get him in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, actually. But one of the things that I like about networking, again, going back to that, is I have projects that have come from that. I have projects that are relative to entertainment and singing, but also to nightclubs. In Tampa, there was a young man that came there in the early 70s who became a nightclub owner and did it his way and become very successful, Jim Robocanti. And he's one of the leading consultants in the world now for restaurant and nightclub startups. And so his story is fascinating in how he did it and went against the grain and became, especially during the disco era, you know, the top place to go in Tampa for many, many years. Robocanti's is a fascinating story. So there's a number of things. I'm also working on a feature film, which is a story about a gentleman who owned a restaurant, and he actually got lost at sea and was discovered that he actually created a scenario which made it look like he was lost at sea, but he had planned to live somewhere else and leave the country.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
Was
wow.
discovered living in another country.
Okay.
And so we have some inside track on that
I love
story.
that.
I've actually written the screenplay on that, and we're playing around with it right now. But it's a fascinating story. So that's all I can tell you about that.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, it sounds fascinating.
We'll
enough.
look into into the future to see that one. So
Yeah, for sure. Now, where can we find more information about your films or your work or whatever you have going on next?
Well, social media has been a blessing. Let's face it. Of course, on Facebook, I'm there, along with well, The Last Teardrop is there. It has its own page. But aquestfilms.com is how you can find me, and Aquest, A-Q-E-S-T, films, plural.com. And, you know, social media, I have people who are now wanting me to kind of do some other things with Instagram and Twitter and all those
Right.
things. So I'll play that game, but I'm old school.
listen, we hear you. We understand.
Right.
Like we do the social media thing, but at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Some great information. Guys, check out Aquest Films, and I hope to see The Last Teardrop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds fascinating. So we look forward to seeing all of your stuff.
We hope to have them all streaming this time next year.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you would like to be a guest, have something to promote, or have your film featured on the show, email us at icstv@yahoo.com or visit us on our website at indiecinemashowcase.com.
Watch past episodes on YouTube, Rumble, Roku, and Apple Plus by searching for Indie Cinema Showcase. And finally, follow us on our socials, Facebook at ICSTV and on Instagram and Twitter at ICSTV Show.
Welcome back. Now it's time for our segment we like to call On Location with ICS. In this episode, we visit Megacon 2022 at the Orange County Convention Center.
Hey guys, as you know, Megacon is full of fun and a whole bunch of cosplay, and I am here now with Vacation Trooper. Vacation Trooper, thank you for actually stopping to talk to me.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell me, where did this idea come from?
The Vacation Trooper was kind of just thrown together back in 2018. Went to my first Megacon then and decided to stop by a Dollar Tree, grab some leis, some goggles, and the rest is history.
And I heard there's like a troop of you, right?
A what?
A whole troop of you?
Yes, we have the Misfit Troopers and the Misfit Mandos.
And what are the Misfit Troopers?
So the Misfit Troopers, we put together a group of, you've heard of the 501st, the Mandalorian Mercs. Not everybody has the budget for making a screen-accurate costume, so decided to throw a group together to take in all the Misfits and give them a home pretty much, a pretty big community which is growing out to be.
And that's fantastic. Have you guys as a troop come to Megacon before?
No, this is the first meetup this year.
Is this going to be your last?
Oh, absolutely not.
All right, that's cool. So if anybody wants to join the Misfit Troopers or they want to just follow your fun, your fun endeavors, where can they go to find that information?
Instagram, we have the Misfit Troopers and Misfit Mandos on there, and as well on Facebook.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. You're like super popular, you and your crew, so I'll let you go do your Megacon thing.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, I'm here with Kajora Cosplay, one of the up and rising stars in cosplay fandom. Kajora, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you. Glad
So-
to be here.
How is Megacon treating you this year?
Oh my God, it's amazing. There's so many people this year. We are literally packed. But the vendors are amazing, the staff is amazing, the guests to die for. We have all the hobbits here today. Can you believe that?
You gotta hunt them down one by one.
I know. I'm
So-
ready to take the ring.
So tell me, how long have you been doing cosplay?
It's been about 3 years now. Yep.
What inspired you to actually get into cosplay?
Oh my goodness. So this is a very recurring statement for many cosplayers.
Right.
Jessica Negri, all day, every day. I grew up watching her videos on YouTube, helped me get through high school. She was a great inspiration to myself, and I just really love cosplay. I love being able to make different characters every time.
Now, one good thing, now I follow Kajora on Instagram, and like all the stuff that you do, you build it yourself.
Yes, I do.
How is that process? Like, how long does it take you sometimes?
So for Megacon, I built 3 costumes in 3 weeks. Normally I don't do it that fast, but I'm a procrastinator. This is a 3D print. Some of the stuff I cut by hand. I work with EVA foam. I kind of work with pretty much all the materials that I can. I love learning, so.
Now, how did you go about learning stuff? Do you watch like YouTube videos, or is it like self-taught?
Oh, YouTube videos all day. I will tell you, great resources, Kinpatsu, Kamui, Hoku props, there's so many cosplayers out there. Yaya Han is another example, and you can find a lot of patterns on Etsy too.
Well, Kajora, thank you so much for joining us today. I wish you the very best. Guys, if you want to find out more, follow her on Instagram, Kajora Cosplay, on all her platforms. Definitely check her out.
It was so nice hanging out with you. Thank you.
For our final segment, we travel to the beautiful Enzian Theater, where the Indiana Jones of cinematic adventures, Tim Anderson, is going to let us know which films we should see before we die. Take it away, Tim.
Thanks, guys. So, hi, I'm Tim Anderson. I'm programming coordinator for the beautiful Enzian Theater here in Maitland, Florida. And these are some films that I think that you need to see before you die. Actually, hopefully you don't die and you just get to watch movies forever, in perpetuity. The one I want to talk to you about today is a good example of both a first-time filmmaker sort of breaking the mold, but also about adapting film for screen from a source material. The movie I want to highlight in this is 1971's The Last Picture Show, directed by Peter Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich is sort of famous as a film critic in the early 1960s, partially due to his relationship and friendship with Orson Welles. He is sort of uniquely responsible for sort of helping elevate Citizen Kane from being a movie in obscurity to sort of becoming revered as the greatest film that's ever been made in the history of cinema. But when they finally gave Bogdanovich money to make his movie, he wanted to adapt Larry McMurtry's very, very, very short novella, The Last Picture Show, about this movie theater in a dying West Texas town. And he talked to Welles about it, and some of the things that they discussed was whether to shoot the film in color or black and white, because no one was really shooting black and white movies in the 1970s anymore. But Bogdanovich stuck to his guns to kind of drain the color and life out of this town and present the film in black and white. And I do really think of the last 50 plus years of films that this is a pinnacle film that is using black and white cinematography. I see a lot of black and white cinematography that's being done in the indie film circuit right now that is people that just desaturate their color photography but have not really understood how to light for black and white. This is a movie that I think you should take a look at also specifically for the cinematography and for how to light black and white in the daytime. Because a lot of what people think of in black and white cinema is that sort of universal monsters, very deep, very black, and that chiaroscuro lighting setups that exist inside of that, which are very high contrast. But then when you get a black and white film that takes place in the middle of the hot afternoon Texas sun, everything should look very flat. But this film does not. It's incredibly dynamic. Bogdanovich also put together a cast that is unbelievable. And I know in another episode I will talk about American Graffiti and the kind of cast that exists there as well. But this film, which features Timothy Bottoms and Jeff Bridges and Sybil Shepherd in her film debut, Karen Black, the great Cloris Leachman, is absolutely phenomenal. But one of the scenes that I really want you all to focus on when it happens as well is a scene with the character of Sam the Lion, played by Western legend Ben Johnson. in one of his later roles. And Johnson was a real tough guy action hero of Westerns in the 1940s. And Bogdanovich gives him this incredible single-take monologue where the camera starts very, very far away and then very, almost imperceptibly slowly zooms in on Sam the Lion as he gives this monumental speech in the film, and then slowly begins to retract as well. It's an incredible film. It's also a really interesting film from a technical standpoint because Bogdanovich did not necessarily know what he was doing as a filmmaker. He is sort of invented the idea of cutting inside the camera, which is that he knew exactly how the film was going to be edited together. And you hear Steven Soderbergh talk about this a lot, how he edits all of his movies right now, literally the night he shoots them. Now, of course, we're shooting digitally, and you all are as well, unless you've got the big budget money. Then you can go home, immediately look at the footage that you've shot, and immediately start cutting your movie together. Bogdanovich, unfortunately, had to give her the dailies to the studio, who had no idea what he was filming, because instead of having entire takes in a master shot and then entire setups for single camera or two shots and things like that, he was literally running into the scene with the camera to shoot the close-up right after he shot the medium, and then delivering this, and they were gonna fire him from the movie because they had no idea what he was doing. And finally he had to go in there and say, I'm editing the movie, and these are the only shots that I need. So kind of an amazing sort of guerrilla style that you will see emulated later on down the line, especially in the late 1970s and early 1980s, when quote-unquote guerrilla filmmaking was also taking off, and you hear about filmmakers running around New York City with no permits, shooting whatever they can get their hands on. Now, I'm not recommending you do that, because you should definitely get permits for your safety and the safety of your cast and crew. But it's interesting to kind of take a look backwards in history at an incredible film with an amazing cast, but also a director who was partially inventing new techniques while he was making the movie, while utilizing really old school styles of both performance, of allowing the camera to sit and linger a little longer than you might normally think it would. And people are always looking for those one-take wonder moments, and that Sam the Lion speech is just breathtaking. So I hope you get a chance to take a look at it, and thank you guys so much again for joining me. I'm gonna throw it back to Christina and Nando.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of ICS. We want to thank Tony Grier for sitting down with us and Tim Anderson for those great movie suggestions.
We hope you learned something new, saw something that you love, or got inspired to get off your couch and go make a movie of your own. Who knows? It might be good enough for us to screen on the next Indie Cinema Showcase.
Don't forget to follow us on our socials, Facebook at ICS TV, Instagram at ICS TV Show, and on YouTube, Rumble, Roku, and Apple Plus by looking up Indie Cinema Showcase.
And if you want a chance to have your work, event, convention, or film festival featured on ICS, send us an email at icstv@yahoo.com.
Until then, the set is closed, and as they say in the movie business, that's a wrap.
See you next time.